Do remember simply this. Treat the other members of your family with the same respect and cordiality you would show your most treasured friend outside the family circle. This does not mean you should be stiff or formal. With your own family, you can relax. Be yourself. Just be sure it's your best self. This is better.
To so many Americans, the 1950s represented an ideal period in American history. America stood as an unrivaled global powerhouse in terms of economics, politics, and military strength. The expression, as American as baseball and apple pie, frequently encapsulates the essence of something distinctly American. While everyone being told to work towards having their own nuclear family, 2 parents and 2 children, as it became a customary social standard. As a result of the nation's evangelical ideological social contract, it makes sense that one nation, under God, was added to the Pledge of Allegiance in 1954 through an act of Congress, and "In God We Trust" was adopted as the national motto in 1956. The phrase came to symbolize a shared commitment to religious faith and moral principles as foundational elements of the American identity during a period marked by ideological and geopolitical tensions. Americans had developed a strong affection and pride for these traditional values, viewing them as integral to their identity. They became worried that these cherished ideals were under threat due to concerns such as communism, the Red Scare, and the Cold War with the Soviet Union. Following the Cold War and the decline of communism, the focus shifted to a single perceived threat, capable of undermining their beloved traditional American ideals. This threat, deeply feared within the evangelical American way of life, has historically been known by various names across cultures and has been a recurring subject in media, cinema, and literature. Most commonly recognized as the devil. But why should we fear the devil?
Don't be afraid. This is not a recruitment film for Satanism. You're either a real Satanist, a true Satanist, or not. And if you are, you were born that way.
Fear is essentially just a kind of protective mechanism, and experiencing fear is a natural emotion that has helped humans to quickly recognize and respond to potential harm. It's been bred into us by evolution over millions of years, and it can manifest as anxieties, phobias, or panic attacks. Our hearts beat faster, our breathing speeds up, our muscles tense. We might sweat, feel shaky, or get butterflies in our stomach. Our eyes widen and sometimes we feel dizzy, and these physical changes prepare us to face or run away for what seems to be threatening us, showing how closely our emotions are linked to our body's reactions. Early humans harbored fears of predators, natural disasters, and the unknown. The darkness limiting their sight sparked fear of potential threats, and archaeologists in Russia recently took a better look at a wooden figure called the Shigor idol that was originally uncovered in Russia in 1894, dating back 11,600 years. This sculpture has faces that experts believe depict what is now considered some of the early ideas of demons. People fear the devil because it represents unseen, malevolent forces. This fear has roots in our past, where early humans were scared of unknown dangers for survival. The devil is often seen as a symbol of evil in cultural and religious beliefs, and this becomes a way to explain and deal with the idea of malevolence. So fearing the devil is like being cautious about unseen threats and embracing cultural stories about evil forces. Throughout history, so many cultures have depicted significant evil entities. In ancient Mesopotamia, Pazuzu had a monstrous head resembling that of a fierce lion or dog, with horns and an emaciated body with clawed hands and a scorpion tail, 2 sets of wings. Greece gave us Hades as the god of the underworld, and more recently we can look to Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, as they share Satan, or Elvis. What unites them is their association with darkness and rebellion against divine order. These entities embody malevolence, temptation, and opposition to all that is good. As cultures influenced each other, these representations persisted, leading to an enduring fear of the devil in the 20th century. The devil became a symbol of religious teachings, folklore, and media, and it reflected social anxieties and the struggles, making it a powerful archetype transcending cultural boundaries. John Milton's Paradise Lost, published in 1667, portrays Satan as a charismatic fallen angel, challenging traditional perceptions of evil, and Dante Alighieri's Inferno, part of the Divine Comedy, describes the journey through hell and Satan's portrayal dating back to the early 14th century. Hieronymus Bosch's triptych painting, The Garden of Earthly Delights, captures demonic torment in a surreal manner, likely created between 1490 and 1510. These literary and artistic works, spanning from the 14th century to the 17th century, contribute to the idea of the devil. The devil represents all things bad and evil, embodying every fear and every pain imaginable. It's like the essence of death and destruction, stirring up everything that we are afraid of. As humans, it makes sense to be afraid of the devil because, in a strange way, it's like fear personified. It's just not a specific bad thing, it's everything negative and bad rolled into one. The devil is like the very concept of fear itself, lurking in the shadows and evoking a deep sense of dread.
There is a kingdom of darkness on the earth into which thousands of our young people are falling prey. Human sacrifice is the ultimate rite, with children initiated to the horrors of sacrifice as early as age 4.
There's no question. They're finding bodies now of children who have pentagrams carved in their chests, who have ritual mutilations, who've had the blood drained from their bodies, who have had pentagrams carved on their private parts, hideous things.
Now, as we go ahead with a ritual, you can see that the child now is forced to take the severed penis and eat it. Very common also in these rituals.
I think being raped by a gun up my vagina, with men standing around me, masturbating on me, that is not only child abuse. I think that's child abuse perpetrated by a group of people who shared a belief system that said...
What was the...
God knows what it was.
You were how old?
I was less than 5 years old. That's all I know.
The highest offering that you can make to Satan is the killing of a baby. And if you can induce labor and kill that baby as it's being born, the more power, the more energy that it is given to that cult.
Or perhaps the most dangerous kind of devil worship comes in the form of underground cults. Most of them are very secretive, usually organizing clandestine rituals in the dark of night.
Before the Satanic Panic of the 1980s, there was some similar mass hysteria and religious fear that led up to it in the Salem witch trials in the late 17th century, where a series of hearings and prosecutions took place accusing people of witchcraft as a result of strong beliefs in supernatural, social tensions, and personal conflicts, as well as a climate of fear and hysteria. This paranoia resulted in numerous wrongful convictions and executions based on unfounded fears of witchcraft. Another historical example is the European witch hunts during the late medieval and early modern periods, where thousands of people, mostly women, were accused of witchcraft and faced prosecution.
This man, like thousands of others around the country, is suffering from a dread disease called nuclearosis. The symptoms? Nuclear blindness. All he can see is a mushroom cloud. He is blinded from the fear of it, deaf from the sound of it. There is a short circuit in his brain. He can only think of the awfulness of the nuclear bomb.
The Satanic Panic wasn't an isolated event, but a culmination of evolving fears that had been brewing since the late 1960s. This era witnessed a surge in interest in the occult, driven by factors like the Manson's cult and their gruesome murders and the publication of Anton LaVey's The Satanic Bible. As the 1970s unfolded, the landscape of paranoia expanded with best-selling novels like The Exorcist and fabricated memoirs like The Satan Cellar, reinforcing the idea that dark occult rituals were becoming a routine part of the American life.
You've taught your children to be polite and friendly, but have you taught them when not to be?
Hi there. Do you live around here?
Uh-huh.
You going to school?
Yes.
By the 1980s, the nation found itself in a grip of stranger danger and a growing unease about the changing societal landscape. The economy was thriving, but so was the fear of the unknown, manifested in the spread of misinformation about AIDS,
Known as the gay plague.
kidnapped victims appearing on milk cartons, and the infamous 1982 Tylenol murders.
We would like them to get it out of their home.
This product may be contaminated with cyanide.
Cyanide happens to be a drug that can cause sudden death.
Paula was murdered.
With this backdrop and social climate, Christian fundamentalism and literal belief in angels and devils gained prominence, driven by figures like Jerry Falwell, who was an American pastor, televangelist, and influential figure in the conservative Christian circles. He was the founder of Thomas Road Baptist Church in Lynchburg, Virginia, and Liberty University. He often spoke about the dangers of Satanism and occult practices, emphasizing these concerns in his sermons, television programs, and public statements. Falwell, along with other conservative religious leaders, discussed topics related to the alleged satanic ritual abuse, claims of satanic influences in popular culture, and the supposed threat of Satanism to traditional values. By using his influence and media presence, Falwell played a role in shaping public perceptions about satanic activities. However, it wasn't just religious fervor that fueled the panic. The media played a very significant role. In 1988, Geraldo Rivera's sensationalistic documentary, Devil Worship, Exposing Satan's Underground, became the highest rated television documentary at the time. Evangelical documentaries like Hell's Bells attempted to tie rock music to the occult, creating an environment ripe for societal hysteria.
By way of an analogy, take strychnine, one of the most powerful poisons in the world. In its raw state, it's unattractive and extraordinarily bitter. Left in a room with young children, it's unlikely that they would pay much attention to it, and even more unlikely that they could stand to eat enough for it to be fatal. So it is with some of the more extreme forms of rock, music that directly glorifies death and Satan. Most people avoid it, although it must be noted that our society has become so desensitized and perverted that some are only too happy to take Satan's bitter poison straight.
The consequences of satanic panic went beyond sensational headlines. Legal systems were marred by wrongful convictions, with innocent individuals facing the brunt of unfounded accusations. Lives were shattered, communities stigmatized, and investigative practices transformed. The Exorcist, released in 1973, directed by William Friedkin, emerged as a cultural phenomenon that left an indelible mark on the American psyche, significantly contributing to the climate that later fueled the Satanic Panic. This cinematic masterpiece, based on the William Peter Blatty's novel, immersed audiences in a narrative centered on the possession of a young girl, Regan, by a demonic entity. The film's success lay not only in its groundbreaking special effects and intense storytelling, but also its adept exploration of deep-seated fears rooted. The film had a profound psychological impact on audiences, tapping into the fear of the unknown and the supernatural. The idea that one's body and mind could be overtaken by malevolent forces resonated deeply, contributing to a broader culture, including reports of audience members fainting and experiencing distress during screenings, further heightened its mystique. Solidifying the notion of supernatural terror and the fragility of the human psyche laid the groundwork for the anxieties that would later manifest during the Satanic Panic of the 1980s. Michelle Remembers, 1980. Michelle Remembers, a memoir published in 1980, played a pivotal role in fanning the flames of satanic panic, contributing to widespread hysteria and fear in the American public. The book, co-authored by Michelle Smith and her psychiatrist Lawrence Pazder, recounted Smith's alleged repressed memories of horrific satanic ritual abuse. The controversy surrounding Michelle Remembers stemmed from several key factors. Firstly, the memoir presented an extraordinary narrative of extreme and sadistic abuse, involving allegations of being subjected to rituals, torture, and sexual assault as part of a secret satanic cult. These claims were shocking and fueled the public's fascination and horror, capitalizing on the broader cultural climate of anxiety surrounding occult practices. One of the central critiques of Michelle Remembers was its lack of empirical evidence or corroboration for the events described. The book relied heavily on the concept of repressed memories, a controversial and scientifically unproven psychological phenomenon. Critics argued that the therapeutic techniques used, including hypnosis, may have contributed to the creation of false memories rather than the recovery of repressed ones. Despite the lack of substantiated evidence, Michelle Remembers garnered significant media attention, amplifying its influence. The book's publication coincided with a growing societal concern about the possibility of widespread satanic cults engaging in ritualistic abuse. The vivid and sensationalized storytelling captured the imagination of the public.
Often find that power in animal sacrifice. Photographs support their theory, and some self-proclaimed devil worshippers tout it.
The animal would bleed to death. It was painless because the knife was always very sharp, if you could cut it right. And the animal would remain alive for several minutes while its blood drained out of the jugular vein.
And then what?
Well, the ritual would work itself up to a frenzy in a head, and hopefully by the time all the emotion was spent out of the human beings, the animal was dead.
The most common thing in...
leading many to believe in the existence of a hidden network of satanic evildoers. The controversy surrounding the book also triggered debates about the reliability of recovered memories in legal and therapeutic contexts. Michelle Remembers became a cultural touchstone, illustrating the potential dangers of relying on unverified and sensationalized accounts, especially when they played into prevailing fears and anxieties. In essence, the memoir became a catalyst for the escalating satanic panic, influencing public perception and contributing to the fervor that characterized this period of moral panic.
Your dungeon master has placed you in a dreadfully precarious position. You're playing the most phenomenal game ever created. Your skin grows cold from your first glimpse.
Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons, or D&D, is a tabletop role-playing game where players use dice and rule books to create characters and embark on imaginative adventures led by a dungeon master. While the game is fundamentally about storytelling, fantasy, and collaboration, some elements might be misunderstood by those unfamiliar or with religious concerns.
It is also the target of a group of concerned parents in the United States who call themselves BADD, B-A-D-D, bothered about Dungeons and Dragons. The reason they are bothered is because they believe the game has been involved in a number of murders and suicides across the United States and now in Canada. At the trial of a 14-year-old boy who admitted to strangling a young Orangeville, Ontario girl and her brother, it was revealed the accused had been playing the game for 18 months, had in fact been a dungeon master of his own group for 5 months.
Dungeon Master and Dwarven Sword Master, hobgoblins, dwarves, elves, and halflings are some of the characters and terms used in this very complicated and controversial game. We'll talk about the controversy in a moment, but first this report by Carol Jerome, who went to one of the games of the Toronto Dungeons and
Symbols, magical elements, and the presence of gods within the game could be misconstrued as having satanic undertones by those lacking knowledge about the game's nature and objectives. This misunderstanding contributed to the social panic surrounding D&D during the 1980s. One James Dallas Egbert III, a 16-year-old who went missing from Michigan State University in 1979. Private investigator William Deere, hired by Egbert's parents, suggested foul play and linked it to Egbert's involvement in D&D. Although Egbert was later found to have taken refuge in the utility tunnels, his mental health struggles and drug addiction were overshadowed by sensationalized narratives, contributing to the notion that D&D was somehow connected to his disappearance. Author Rona Jaffe capitalized on the hype, penning the book Mazes and Monsters, later adapted into a film starring Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks and his friends get caught up in a deadly game of fantasy.
I am the maze controller.
Until they take it too far.
I propose we play mazes and monsters in a real setting. It won't be a fantasy.
Too bad for one of them, because now there's no turning back.
This is only a game. I know I killed somebody.
The publishers of D&D, TSR, witnessed a surge in sales following the media coverage of Egbert's story. The anti-D&D campaign gained momentum with Patricia Pulling, a mother who blamed her son's suicide on the game. She launched Bad, Bothered About Dungeons and Dragons, and accused D&D of promoting demonology, witchcraft, murder, and satanic rituals. Despite its lack of legitimacy, Bad conducted a media campaign through conservative Christian outlets and even appeared on mainstream shows like 60 Minutes. Concerns about D&D influencing young people and blurring the lines between fantasy and reality were widespread. Some religious figures likened the game to demon worship due to its inclusion of gods. False claims circulated that character deaths in the game could drive players to suicide. Instances of tragic events involving D&D players, such as the murder of Mary Towie in 1984 and the conspiracy to murder by Chris Pritchard in 1988, were used to further fuel the moral panic. However, these cases were isolated incidents, and attempts to blame D&D for these tragedies lacked substantial evidence. The moral panic surrounding D&D in the 1980s was characterized by exaggerated claims, misinformation, and a lack of critical examination.
California. The scene, it is alleged, of one of the biggest and most bizarre cases of sexual abuse of children in anyone's memory.
The McMartin preschool trial, also known as the Kern County child abuse case, stands as a notorious episode from the Satanic Panic era in the 1980s, originating in 1983 with allegations of satanic ritual abuse and child molestation at the McMartin preschool in Manhattan Beach, California. The case quickly became emblematic of the societal hysteria that gripped the time. Judy Johnson, a mother of a preschool student, initially accused Ray Bucky, an employee at McMartin preschool, of sexually abusing her son. The subsequent mass hysteria saw a growing number of parents convinced that their children had fallen victim to satanic rituals and abuse orchestrated by the preschool staff. Allegations included tales of underground tunnels, ritualistic animal sacrifices, and bizarre satanic ceremonies. This panic extended beyond McMartin, affecting other daycare centers in the area. Law enforcement, swept up in the fervor of the panic, conducted extensive interviews with the children, utilizing techniques such as anatomically correct dolls and repetitive questioning. However, the investigation revealed serious flaws. The methods employed were criticized for potentially implanting false memories, and the lack of physical evidence, coupled with reliance on uncorroborated testimonies from young children, led to a prolonged and controversial legal battle. In 1990, after a lengthy and costly trial, the case against the McMartin preschool staff collapsed. Ray Bucky, retried separately, was ultimately acquitted on all charges. the McMartin preschool trial became a symbol of the issues associated with the Satanic Panic, showcasing how baseless allegations, media sensationalism, and flawed investigative techniques could have devastating consequences for the accused. The Kern County case, along with others from that era, underscored the perils of societal hysteria, resulting in false accusations, ruined lives, and a lasting impact on public perception regarding satanic rituals and abuse. It serves as a cautionary tale, emphasizing the need for critical thinking and evidence-based investigations, especially in cases marked by extraordinary and sensational claims fueled by the Satanic Panic. The Satanic Panic era shed light on investigative flaws, particularly the use of hypnosis and suggestive interviewing. These practices played a significant role in extracting false memories and testimonies, contributing to the hysteria surrounding satanic ritual abuse. Victims of these investigative methods endured enduring trauma as false memories became indistinguishable from reality. Confirmation bias, inherent in therapeutic practices during this period, further solidified these false narratives. The legal ramifications were severe as confirmation bias influenced legal proceedings, resulting in unjust verdicts and perpetuating the cycle of panic.
Ladies and gentlemen,
the zeal of these fictional devil worshippers is strikingly similar to that of real-life Satanists.
God is dead!
See, these guys, they wouldn't leave him alone. Mike Warnke is a former Satanist. Today, he's a successful comedian, preaching Christianity in the form of humor. But back in the 60s, he was one of Satanism's high priests.
The things that you would see in a satanic altar.
He showed us what a satanic temple might resemble, and typical implements used to worship the devil.
The bones usually are used in a ceremony that calls for telling the future with the bones or a part of the deceased person.
He also explained what attracted him to Satanism.
I was basically drawn into it when I was young, just wanting to be somebody special. I just wanted to be different than everybody and have something that was special that everybody, looked up to.
America is being affected. Nationwide, we found that minor cases of satanic activity light up the map. Not a single state is unaffected.
His journey to notoriety began with the publication of his book, The Satan Cellar, in 1972. In this autobiographical work, Warnke claimed a tumultuous childhood, involvement in satanic rituals, and subsequent conversion to Christianity. The narrative depicted Warnke's rise through the ranks of Satanism, engaging in shocking practices like sexual orgies, drug dealing, and even presiding over satanic rituals as a high priest. The book became a religious bestseller in under 3 months, propelling Warnke to stardom within evangelical Christian communities. His popularity led to speaking engagements and Christian comedy albums, contributing to the sensationalism of satanic themes. However, the Cornerstone magazine's 1991 investigation into Warnke's life exposed numerous inconsistencies and falsehoods. His claims of being a satanic high priest involved in ritualistic practices were debunked through interviews, photographs, and tax records. Warnke's embellishments extended to his personal life, including multiple marriages, affairs, and exaggerated academic achievements. The investigation dismantled his credibility, revealing that he could not have participated in the events he claimed during the alleged 9 months as a satanic priest. The subsequent fallout led to financial misdeeds in his ministry, the termination of his contract with Word Records, and the closure of his ministry in September 1992. In response to the expose, Warnke initially stood by his testimony, citing changes in the book to protect privacy and prevent occult usage. However, public sentiment turned against him, and his ministry faced allegations of financial impropriety. Warnke's attempts at comeback in the following years were met with very limited success, and his influence waned significantly. The saga of Mike Warnke serves as a cautionary tale about the potential consequences of sensationalized narratives and the importance of fact-checking during times of societal panic. And Mike Warnke has a YouTube channel that he still is active on, and he's pretty active. So if you want to go see what he's talking about these days, he is posting on YouTube. Okay, so as we reflect on the era of the Satanic Panic, it's clear that the media played a crucial role in shaping societal fears. The sensationalism and the lack of responsibility in reporting fueled misconceptions, leading to wrongful convictions and lasting consequences for individuals and communities. Moving forward, it's essential for the media to embrace ethical reporting, avoiding the pitfalls of sensationalism. The justice system, too, must incorporate safeguards to prevent miscarriages of justice. Efforts to reform and rectify the aftermath of the Satanic Panic should persist. So, looking at society today, the echoes of the Satanic Panic linger in our cultural memory. It serves as a stark reminder of the importance of critical thinking, urging us to question collective anxieties and beliefs. To prevent future panics, fostering a society that questions and challenges societal fears is paramount. Education and awareness play a crucial role in dispelling misconceptions, ensuring that we learn from the lessons of the past and build a more informed and resilient future. Thank you.
Filled with all of these jokes,